Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to the Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life.
We are truly here on this earth for a reason, and that reason shows itself in many different ways. If we watch for the promptings or the messages that come our way, they are leading us down the path towards that divine intent to make the difference that we're meant to make. Each one of us is a puzzle piece, and as we fit ourselves into the puzzle of this world, we allow and open up spaces and opportunities for others to find their place, to be able to put their piece in that big puzzle. As we uncover more and more about ourselves, as we start sharing from our heart, giving of who we're meant to be, we're truly of service to everyone in the country, in the world, in our communities. And as we share, others have the opportunity to grow and share too. Each of us are meant to make a difference in the world, and others will help us make our difference as we step out more fully from the heart. We're meant to dream. If you can dream it, you can achieve it. Follow your dreams. Hold on to your dreams. And make happen in the world what you're meant to make happen. I'm with Chris Dyer today. Chris's calling is investing in people. She's a multidimensional co-creator, collaborator, and connector, coach, speaker, and author. She's an abundance and breakthrough coach teaching heart-centered, compassionate entrepreneurs to prioritize themselves while they are building legacies and a life they love. Chris is the founder and CEO of 3 new startups, including Chris Dyer Consulting, Positive Panache, and Embellished Butterfly. Chris Dyer, are you ready to share the miracle of you with the imagination?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Vince.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you here. It's been a while. We've been trying to get together, and now I get to share you with the imagination. Before we dive into some questions that I think will really enlighten the listeners, could you tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you're doing and how you're making a difference in the world?
Sure. Thank you, Vince. So this iteration of my entrepreneur journey really began in 2019. I've been an entrepreneur and a coach since entrepreneur since 2005, and actually started coaching primarily women in a physical sense back in 2010. So it's been a few minutes. And while those things were beautiful, served a purpose, helped to get my teenagers raised and help put my husband through school. I knew I wanted more than just a product-based business, and so with moving a lot for 7 years, relocating 3 times in 7 years, and starting over, took me a while to really land on what does that look like. And so in 2019, I launched Embellished Butterfly. But what's interesting is I manifested that name in 2013, and I didn't actually launch until 2019. So that name was mine for the taking, right? And I knew that I wanted to take my business in a creative direction because I've always associated with being a creative. And that really hit home with where that came from in my being when I went to my grandmother transitioned last summer, and she was 8 days from being 100 years old. And when I got to go to her home to help prepare it for sale, I saw myself and my grandmother, right? And so even though there's music and there's artistry in my genealogy, the creative part sort of skipped a generation with my mother. She's musical, but she's not creative like me. So I saw myself through my grandmother. It's like, oh wow, she came from a depression era mentality. She could make anything beautiful out of nothing, right? Scraps, and just really repurpose and recycle. So I know that's where part of my creativity gene carried along with me. But I wanted to create. When I create for other people. For me to sit still and just create something for myself, there's more joy knowing that it's going to someone else. That's going to brighten their day, bring a smile. And so when I launched Embellished Butterfly, I brought remnants of my early adulthood and my love for sparkly things, sparkly, shiny things. And, you know, um, it's interesting that sparkle is, and I gave this as a comment to somebody. It's like, sparkle is an expression of an external feeling or an internal feeling, right? It's that external manifestation of what's truly on the inside. And I've always loved bright colors. I've always loved light. I've loved stained glass and things that reflect and refract light and crystals and all the things and bright, shiny objects. And I wanted to bring that into my creativity. Well, I thought it would be jewelry because that's what I knew how to do. I did that early on in my early adult life. But then how do you differentiate? In my sales part of my adult career, differentiation was one of the key takeaways. What distinguishes me or makes me different from all the other artisans out there doing their craft. And so instead of getting tripped up on that, I decided, what if I made things that were customizable, personalized to the recipient? Because then it means something more than just me taking objects, making something that I feel like it's important. For me, it's much more intentional to take that energy, that creativity, and put it into something that I know for a fact means something significant to the other person. And so that's when I decided to do the customized, personalized gifts with the element of sparkle. That's sort of my tagline. I've called myself the bling queen, sparkle queen, whatever, but it really it almost cheapens it, really. And that was the vernacular I used early on, but I've since been doing the work on myself. That's the remarkable part of the 3-year journey. It's what started as Embellished Butterfly really has evolved to something more impactful. It's just, I don't have words to describe the sense of gratitude that I have for this 3-year journey that started thinking it was going to be business oriented. Oh, I'm going to make this creative business. But what it has really blossomed has been the relationship to myself, right? Knowing myself, knowing my truth, rediscovering me, if you will, and really uncovering those assets that I had suppressed, repressed, oppressed in myself, thinking, oh, it has to look like this, when you've had all this along, right? And we get distracted by all the things. And when we really simplify, and what's also a realization with the creativity time that I've had investing in the creative side of my business, there is a meditative space, right? Any artist studio, that's really their meditative space. It's like your personal learning laboratory. It gives you time to quiet your nervous system, to be really reflective, introspective, allows you to pour into you great podcasts, great books, great positive reprogramming, right? So all this time while I'm in this creative mode, I'm reprogramming my brain from my entire life. And in addition to that, showing up as an entrepreneur and creating relationships within the business and outside of the business, that's been the bow on the package, really, where I used to feel like I was a lonely, isolated child growing up, and I knew early on that friends were the family I create for myself. And I can create a magical family by attracting those people that we have a synergy and positive energy. And I know you're gonna touch on that a little bit with some of your magic with physics and quantum physics. But that's been the journey. And throughout the pandemic, I quickly adapted where I needed to continue to show up. That was the important thing. Is no matter what, I have always been consistent in showing up and being there, supporting the business, growing the business, and what's evolved from that is the impact that I'm able to use the creativity to serve other populations with regards to diversity, inclusivity. I work hand in hand with adults with special needs on my production team. So that's a give back to my community that's very important to me, that still is who I'm being on Behind the Curtain. It's consistent with who I am, forefront and behind the curtain. So yes, Embellish Butterfly is more than just me putting beauty out into the world. I'm actually offering beauty and an opportunity to other adults with special needs. They get to create and have their way in the world, place in the world, earning independence, earning critical thinking, self-confidence, all the things that as growing adults we take for granted. But these special populations, they just want to be loved and contribute to the world and know they have a place. So I'm very blessed to have that opportunity to offer. But I also collaborate with other creatives and help them market their beautiful art. But the key thing is just showing up, and then the evolution, bringing back in. And I know you're going to ask me my pivot point, because we're human, and we do get triggered time and time again. Someone asked me the questions like, what is one thing that you think about yourself that you think other people think, or you wish you didn't think? And my answer immediately was that people don't take me seriously. And that was like me holding up the mirror in front of myself, saying, no, Chris, you're not taking yourself seriously, right? I have all these amazing tools and skill sets and this wisdom over a lifetime that need to be shared, right? To help somebody else on their journey while they're figuring it out for themselves. And so that's how the creativity, all the work, the reflection and insight have beautifully evolved into how I show up now, and even changing the identity. Like the new identity of Chris isn't the same identity as 3 years ago, and showing up in that more powerful, brighter space to help light the way for others.
So many of us learn along the way that our gifts and talents are to be shared in a way that others can share theirs, which you described so eloquently. And then to realize that as we share those gifts and talents, we grow, we expand, and we see a new part of us, and we allow more of our heart to shine and more of us to show up in the world. So I think you did a really great job of showing how that's been reflected in your life. There's some terms that you use as I was doing research that I would love for you to define, and we can step through them, because I think there's a misunderstanding in a lot of ways of some of the terms that are being used out there. First of all, could you share with me what your definition is of a heart-centered entrepreneur?
Absolutely. A heart-centered entrepreneur is a servant leader. They're there to show up for others, to help them in the direction of where they're going, in their goals and their dreams. High levels of empathy and compassion, understanding, unconditional love. And when you're in an educator role, when you work in a health and wellness role, when you are a healthcare provider, and I've been all three of those in my adult career, there's a high nurture to the nature, and that just exudes. It's understood. It speaks for itself in how you're being and how you show up to another human being, right? Just being an open book, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, and carrying that implicit trust that develops over time.
One of the things that, as we hear somebody describe something like you just described, heart center, we look at ourselves and there's so much doubt and so much judgment on ourselves on, do I fit that definition? I mean, that was a pretty big definition of what you shared, and a lot of the values and a lot of the ways that people showed up in the way that you described, some of us don't see that in ourselves. And I know in your coaching, you use what you call a holistic approach to help people find that, to mine those things, to uncover those parts of themselves. When you say a holistic approach, how is your approach holistic?
Because we what I do is I really simplify and I take away the intimidation of the way we feel. There's a lot of intimidation, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of angst, overwhelm, anxiety, and that comes from giving our control away to external things. I call them the distractions. Some of those distractions are subconscious, and we haven't learned to uncover them yet. But coming from my health and wellness background, my physical science background, in basic biology, chemistry, and physics, the human body, I've always had a fascination and respect for the miracle of the human body as it is, right? You have all these multiple systems working congruently together, and we're just giant organisms, right? We have all these multiple systems working together. And when we can strip away the distractions and give our bodies and our brains exactly what they need to function and thrive, that's holistic, right? It's positive science, positive psychology, plus the spiritual aspect of it, right? That would be the energy, and I know I have other words that more spiritual than religion, right? It's being connected with the universe. And connection is my second value. I have three. They're very, very well defined. Once I did the work and really outlined my values and really simplified it, it made me knowing my truth and making decisions about following that energy and those opportunities just made it so much easier. There's less angst, there's peace, there's a tranquility that it's unquestionable, right? There's less push and more attract, right? Instead of being the arrow, I get to be the target.
And sometimes you can be the arrow too, and that's the exciting part about life. You can be the arrow and the target sometimes at the same time. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to share your coaching skills a little bit, because you mentioned earlier about the embellished butterfly showing up in your field earlier than it actually being brought into manifestation.
Mm.
And I know that a lot of people experience that, and some people get afraid of it, or some people just let that knowingness go. Could you share with us, one, how you kept it in the field and created embellished butterfly, but then also how others can recognize those promptings that they have and how they can hold on to them to bring them into reality?
It's well, when we manifest, it's almost like you're saying a prayer or a wish or an ask, right? Is you're putting that intention out into the universe, and your subconscious knows that and understands that, even though life gets in the way, the distractions, the situations, the life occurrences that maybe allow us to put things on pause for a while, but your subconscious will bring it back to you eventually. So yeah, embellished butterfly. It's interesting how even when I picked out like the colors and the fonts of what it even represents, and I know that the logo isn't the brand, right? But it's still a representation of the energy and the intention that went behind it. But I really didn't give it a lot of thought. It's just like, oh, this is what I like. This is my energy. I mean, even in the colors, and I've even learned since then, the work that I've been doing is like all these pieces of the puzzles are finally coming to me. It's like, oh yes, I get it now. I understand, right? It's an understanding. And the more we dive into knowing ourselves, the more those pieces of the puzzle fit together, and how everything in our life is, I call it a cosmic puzzle. As a matter of fact, this is an analogy I use for a couple of people. It's like we're born with a cosmic puzzle box. It's all sealed up, right? When we're born, all the pieces are in the box, and it's up to us throughout our life to put those pieces together, right? And as we go through life and we don't understand, or we place judgments, or we have anxiety about things happening to us, and when we know when we really do the work and learn that they're happening for us, it's reframing the language and the perception around people that have come into our lives, situations that have happened. Oh my gosh, this happened, X number of years ago, and that was really cruddy. That really stayed with me for a long, long time. And then when you understand and flip the perception on it, it's like, oh, well, that was intended for me all along. Oh, that person was supposed to be in my life. It didn't look like it was supposed to, or it didn't turn out the way I thought it was supposed to turn out, but there was a lesson in everything, right? And I know I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but embellished butterfly. Butterflies have always been just something that I've always loved. They're very light and airy and beautiful, and there's not a negative connotation ever associated when somebody thinks of a butterfly. They live a very short time and bring beauty in the short time that they're here. They touch lightly and effortlessly wherever they go. And they're cross pollinators. So in a way, yeah, that kind of makes sense because I'm a connector and I cross pollinate people, and to help them, grow in whatever direction. But yeah, embellished, I wanted kind of a bougie word to go with, what I was doing in the creative space. And to me, to embellish something is to take something ordinary and make it extraordinary, in the positive context. I mean, yes, the duality, can also have a negative, like you over exaggerate. That could be an embellishment, but I'm going to take it on the positive spin. And that's exactly why and how the name came about. And, butterfly, it's all full of metaphors and analogies, and it seems very fitting to me.
What would you tell someone, or how would you help them see that something that showed up in their, like I said, in their field, showed up for them? They knew that this was something that they were supposed to do, something that they were called to. And then, as you said earlier, life happens and we kind of let things go on the back burner. How would you share with them how to tap back into that? Because I know there's a lot of people listening right now that that thing that they know they're being called to do has shown up for them, and they're just not quite sure how to get there or make it happen.
Well, it definitely helps to write things out. And actually, I wasn't even journaling back then. It was a construct that was firmly planted in my mind. It was just a goal and a dream. It was there. It's like, okay, this is, if I'm going to continue doing my business, this is what it's going to look like. And for a while, I didn't know the how. And that's interesting because we talk about the Dan Sullivan book, Who, Not How. So it's the who's that came into my life that actually helped bring it to life. Very early in 2019, I met Julie Davis. I took one of her modules, solve unsolvable problems or something like that. But I was stuck in my own way. And she was like, oh, you're just going to do it. And she gave me these assignments to just really short tasks to complete. And it gave me some momentum to get going, right? And sometimes that's all it takes is a spiritual guide, mentor, teacher, whatever, to really kind of give you that oomph to push you over whatever is holding you back. And that was one. And then I had to actually worked with a life coach for the very first time in my life to really help me work through some old baggage that I was holding on to. And it was kind of like Pandora's box, right? It was like, OMG. That's where the real work. I mean, yes, I can do hard things. I've done many hard things, but the most rewarding work I've done is the investment in myself, in understanding myself and healing a lot of emotional baggage that was gifted to me that I was never intended to carry. And healing, old regrets, resentments, rejections, and learning to reframe those is like, oh, well, that's just, the universe holding a different door open for me.
I think that's so important for each and every person to know that we're not meant to do it alone on this earth. And there's a reason that there's a big flow into the coaching world right now, because a coach can hold your hand, they can pull you along sometimes, they can push you when you need to be pushed. And I'm a firm believer in bringing coaches into your life. And when I say coaches, There's been times that I've had three. There's been times that I've had one and times that I've had none. But the most movement happens when you've got those people that aren't invested in anything but you, not invested in the past, not invested in the old beliefs or anything else. It's so I'm so happy that you shared that. The other thing that you shared, which is so important, is, and Jack Canfield, one of my mentors, says this all the time: if you can dream it, you can have it. And that in itself is huge, knowing that that dream was given to you for a reason. There's no mistakes or coincidences in the universe. It was given to you for a reason. So that's huge. Believe it or not, we are getting close to the end of our time, and I want to make sure that you share something that you want everybody to take away from this podcast. What would you share with them?
Very intentional on the relationship with self and commitment to self. Doesn't matter what gender you are, what culture you come from. When we give everything away, and a lot of us are conditioned from birth to give all of our energy away, all the best of us away, and we don't claim ourselves first, we're doing ourselves a huge disservice, right? And so I really feel like the commitment to yourself, really establishing those boundaries so that whatever your dreams and goals are, whether it's your health, your well-being, your business, your relationships, you get to define that and create that when you honor yourself first. And when you do, everybody else benefits, right? You have more capacity to serve in a much bigger way and create more impact when you honor your needs and honor your truth first.
That's so important. I mean, you can't love someone else unless you love yourself first. You can't give to others unless you give to yourself first. It's true. You're an E-Women member. I think Sandra Yancey shared, you've got to have the cup and saucer thing. You've got to fill up your cup, and when the cup runs over, you give away what's in your saucer. And I thought that was such a great analogy. Yeah, so positive. Chris, how can people learn more about you and get in touch with you?
Oh, thank you. I'm easily located on all the social media channels, on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. My website is chrisdyerconsulting.com. Always interested in having a conversation to see if there's a way that I can help you level up your identity, move to the next level. That's what I love. There's always a new level. Just when you think you've gotten comfortable with where you are, there's another level to go deeper and excel higher.
And I'll make sure all that information is available on Chris's show page. Just go to themiracleu.com, look for Chris Dyer's episode, and all that information will be available to you. Chris, I want to thank you for taking the time this afternoon to be with me, share who you are. You're making such a difference in the world, and there's a reason that you've moved so many places. You get to touch so many hearts in so many different places. So thank you for touching the hearts on this show today.
Thank you.
On behalf of Mary, my wife and business partner, the entire team here at Imagine Miracles, we want to wish each and every one of you a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleu.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 mind-awakening steps toward your unique purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleu.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.